All right. Welcome back, everyone. I have for you a little treat. It is a match from the Item Clause tour between none other than FOMG, aka Friends of Mr. Golem. He may go by other names. Uncle Eyeroll, aka Poesy. These two players are definitely very knowledgeable when it comes to Gen 2 or GSC. We have a team preview of, and each player's choices seem to be representative of a particular play style. As a matter of fact, FOM's team is quite interesting. There is a triple normal team, in case you haven't noticed, with Miltank and Blissey as a very solid defensive core. Now, normally this team would be very weak to Machamp, and that's why you see Tentacruel and Starmie, two resists, and Aerodactyl, which is a solid choice against Snorlax in the right conditions, as long as it's not running something like Surf or Toxic or Thunder. And Tentacruel can serve as a form of a win con. So overall, it's a stall-based team. I expect to see something along the lines of Belly Drum on the Snorlax. And on Uncle Eyeroll's end, we have a more offensive-oriented team. What's probably a Pursuit T-Tar and Dragonite, which is able to inflict heavy damage to the likes of Electrics with Ice Beam, while also paralyzing many other mons that threaten it. So it's quite hazardous, if I do say so myself. So without further ado, let's try and get this underway. The volume should be okay. Now, both lead off with Snorlax. Before I say this game has already happened, and this is in the losers bracket of the tournament. It is in fact the second to last game to the finals of this particular bracket. So there are other games in the future that you will see. It is a best of 3, and we start off with FOMG attacking Uncle Eyeroll's Snorlax with Return, and switching immediately out as he discovers that it is a cursed Snorlax. And he decides to use Curse himself. Now, Aerodactyl is a very fast Curse user. It can outspeed Snorlax even after... Well, I'm not sure about after 2, but he can definitely outspeed -1 speed Snorlax. So he brings in his Miltank as soon as Snorlax decides to use Lovely Kiss. Miltank is a reliable wall to most Curse Lax, as it can use Growl, and it isn't exactly concerned about super effective moves being used against it. However, a crit can be deadly in this situation here, as that means it also won't be able to use Heal Bell. So Miltank is trying to recover HP with Milk Drink while also using Growl to weaken the Snorlax and waste its PP. In comes Zapdos, and FOMG rightfully switches to Blissey. Uncle Eyeroll forces a switch on the Blissey and doubles into Dragonite from Machamp. Thus, he paralyzes Snorlax and has a very deadly dynamic punch, but unfortunately for him, it misses. So he brings in his Machamp, as he's still trying to figure out what is the best solution here to damage the Snorlax. We don't know for sure what set this can be. Starmie comes in, and so back in comes Snorlax again. We are once again with Miltank. Okay, and just as I say that, FOMG brings in his Tentacruel, which seems like a very solid answer to Cloyster. Cloyster does not lay the spikes. Interesting play. I'm sorry, I just was drunk. I missed a few turns here. Now, so Zapdos switches in and then doubles out. So Uncle Eyeroll is trying to force some switches here and apply some offensive pressure, but it doesn't look like it's playing too well for him. His Zapdos is taking damage, and it's put on a timer thanks to Tentacruel's Toxic. Snorlax is paralyzed and manages to land a return. Now, a rest in this situation may prove extremely deadly, but luckily for Eyeroll, Snorlax gets paralyzed. So he tries to predict a switch and he lands EQ. And we have in front of ourselves a Sleep Talk Machamp, interestingly enough, which may explain the Pursuit T-Tar here. Now, granted that it is a Pursuit T-Tar, it should be. Zapdos doesn't seem like it's posing much of a threat against the team, especially with Blissey being around and having many opportunities to switch to whatever it likes. Nonetheless, Eyeroll definitely is managing to deal damage here. What will he decide to do? Aerodactyl is awake, and the Snorlax may use Lovely Kiss. It does. Oh, and a Miracle Berry. Just to remind us of the fact that we have in front of ourselves a item clause battle. Zapdos is not recovering HP, and we have yet to see another item take effect here, besides the two Snorlax's leftovers. Starmie coming in and wasting the Machamp PP. It looks like a very tough matchup for Eyeroll here. He better make something happen soon, if he doesn't want to start losing all his moves. I mean, at least for the time being, Eyeroll does seem to have a lot of options in his arsenal to stop Miltank, Aerodactyl, and other Pokemon in its tracks. Let's see what happens. Unfortunately for him, Zapdos does not manage to get the Thunder from a Sleep Talk roll until after FOMG decides to switch Snorlax in. It's likely going to go for a rest here, and it does. This doesn't look like a Swords Dance variant of Tentacruel. We have yet to see what other moves it's packing. I don't think it's Rapid Spin though. It looks more on the Toxic Stall side. So Poesy finally bringing a more defensive option to the Snorlax, and Snorlax manages to get a critical hit Earthquake on Tyranitar. This can be very big. A second crit. Wow, 2 crits in a row. Yes, Snorlax is within range of a Dragonite Dynamic Punch, so he switches rightfully into Tentacruel again, which resists the confusion and isn't necessarily concerned. Poison Zapdos brings Blissey in, but Eyeroll once again manages to predict. He uses Lovely Kiss, and he manages to stop Miltank in its tracks. It doesn't look like there's much stopping it now from setting up, barring this Aerodactyl here, but it's within range and is forced to use Rest. So we'll see what happens of this outcome. Dragonite comes in. Yes, Dragonite is indeed the threatening mixed attacker. It reveals Thunder, and we have a present Blissey, so that does resemble the Lavos team that was given to him by Dice. Snorlax comes back in and is forcing Aerodactyl to click Rest again. Okay, it goes for a Curse. Seems like a good move, especially since Miltank is asleep, so it does have the possibility of clicking rest again, but now it isn't able to do anything unless Sleep Talk happens. In fact, there is no Sleep Talk. Dragonite manages to land a Thunder. He doesn't want to take risks by letting Snorlax come in, so it's a very good move on Uncle Eyeroll's end. At this point, he can just curse one more time. No, and he goes for the double into Dragonite. We see a lot of doubling in and out. Blissey being paralyzed. Paralysis is a very good move, even against the likes of Snorlax, as it manages to stop the best Pokemon in the game 1 out of 4 times. That can be pretty crucial. And Snorlax once again is using Curse, but it's running out of PP, so Eyeroll better act fast here. Oh, and he gets the crit. That's quite unfortunate, with enough PP to spare too. So it looks as though FOMG is just sacking his Blissey to Snorlax. Eyeroll takes the opportunity to use another Curse just to guarantee knocking out the rest of the team. And in fact, FOMG forfeits game 1. So on to game 2. This appears to be something on the verge of a... Sorry, allow me to switch sides here because this is... So, we have another stall-like team, this time with Vaporeon, so very uncommon on stall teams, and then a very nice color scheme here. We have 2 purple mons. That's all I have to say now before my brain fries. It's really late at night. This is definitely a boom offense with a Starmie to bat, so that's very interesting as a choice. Perhaps just to preserve and also to disrupt. The Starmie is very, very good in this in the item clause format. So let's see what they lead off with. And while the games have happened, I haven't seen them all. So Uncle Eyeroll leads with one of his signature Snorlaxes, again, using Lovely Kiss. He manages to win the speed tie, so this can be pretty big, as it might not be a Curse Sleep Talk Snorlax. And Body Slam, that's not something you see every day. And Fire Blast. Okay, this is already very interesting. And he brings in his signature Chief Chirp, manages to predict and hit Marowak with an HP Ice, although it can't stay in for a second turn, so he rightfully brings in Starmie, which also effectively walls Vaporeon in the right context, as long as it doesn't manage to get too many growths off. So he brings in his Cloyster and just, no funny business at all, booms right on the Vaporeon. That may be a big deal though, because now Marowak has the opportunity to use, if it has Rest, for example, which isn't unlikely considering the presence of Blissey, and now FOMG doesn't even have to fight for preserving it from spikes. So he stays in on a Snorlax that tries to paralyze it with Body Slam and damage it, and manages to pull off a Thunder Wave. This may mean that it has Paralysis Cure Berry. We are yet to see what happens here. So the opposing Skarmory is paralyzed, so that can be a very big deal for Uncle Eyeroll, considering he has a Heracross which really likes to have Skarmory out of the way. And okay, so Blissey is cured from paralysis, so it is the Miracle Berry holder. We're yet to see what the other mons are. This Snorlax doesn't have lefties, and neither does that one. So I'm trying to keep up with the moves and items. I know I missed a few turns, but this may last very long otherwise. So we don't want this to last forever. So in the meantime, Uncle Eyeroll is trying to force Lax into a position of having to use Rest so that it can start setting up itself. Or at least forcing in the Skarmory to start playing around it. But it definitely does not want to stay in on a +2 Snorlax, so he brings in his own Worm Breath. aka Steelix, takes a significant amount of damage from a +2 EQ. So this Steelix fate seems sealed. It won't last much longer. It will be forced to boom eventually, and leaving Fong without much to resist its Snorlax here. Sorry, I'm just going to backtrack a few turns just because I'm giving a lot of info while also trying to talk about what's going on. So, the boom on Vaporeon may seem like a big deal, but as a matter of fact, Fong has a pretty vital and like a pretty essential team here going that can resist all of, well, not resist, but is essentially immune to most of what Zapdos has to throw at it. And so on that end, it doesn't look like Skarmory is going to be further challenged barring a boom. And I'm not sure that if this Snorlax is a self-destruct Snorlax, that's not unlikely. But yeah. Okay. So it seems that FOM decides to use Light Screen, which gives further support to Marowak here. Yeah, switching into Skarmory on Heracross is a no-brainer, even if it is Seismic Toss. It's at least forced out from Drill Peck. A couple of double switching happening. Snorlax is deciding to curse up, as it doesn't seem like there's much between much that stands in its way. Uncle Eyeroll rightfully decides to take advantage of the paralysis on Snorlax, and ooh, how unfortunate. Now it seems like it's going to be taking a very significant amount of damage during sleep, and it with not much of a chance to fight against this Snorlax. So we'll see what happens. I bet that on the next turn that it lands a hidden power, this Snorlax may curse. Instead, it gets hit by a Thunder and is paralyzed. Not quite in range of a Thunder KO unless it's a critical hit. Thumb, of course, chooses to use Rest here, so Eyeroll takes advantage of the opportunity to either boom? No. Okay. That wouldn't make much sense, as it's not exactly in range and there's not much that can kill it, so it roars it out, and it has to switch out from a Flamethrower Blissey. Then it lands, then the Snorlax, which comes in, manages to land and deal some significant chip on Marowak, but I bet that on this turn here it's going to use Rest, and I was right. I'm so smart. The other moves being, of course, Swords Dance, EQ, and Rock Slide. So, with the DVs on the attack lowered to 13, otherwise, without HP Bug, one Swords Dance would make the attack roll over. So, we'll see what happens here next. So Steelix pulls off a Curse, and Starmie is, both Starmies come in on each other. So Uncle Eyeroll reveals not the Miracle Berry, but the Paralysis Cure Berry. It seems as, in my opinion, the Snorlax may have something like a Pink Bow or a Miracle Berry, depending on the preference here. I kind of don't understand who has lefties, though. Oh, okay, it's Steelix. That makes sense, since Steelix doesn't really live a very long time. I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up with everything that's going on here. So Snorlax manages to get a bad predict here. I think he meant to target Skarmory, and he was expecting the switch out, but instead Fong felt that there was no reason for him to switch out. So very unfortunate event happened. So now leaving Uncle Eyeroll with even less options. Fong decides to set up a Swords Dance. There's nothing stopping it now. And he's slowly picking apart the opposing team. Especially since Snorlax can very easily take care of the rest of the team from here on. And so he manages to land an EQ. With the paralysis, it cannot use Curse. What will it do? He brings in Marowak on the Curse and or Roar, and or EQ, because at this point it's really not concerned with keeping Marowak alive. Like, Snorlax can definitely take care of the rest, especially if Steelix is out of the way here. Eyeroll is on the receiving end, and it seems like a Curse War is about to commence. Uh-oh. Fong doesn't make the does not make the correct prediction here. Having said that, Marowak is roared in and takes significant damage from, and Steelix takes significant damage. Marowak is KO'd, but now that gives Fong the opportunity to bring in his flamethrower, Blissey, and possibly use Heal Bell if he so pleases to. But that wouldn't be necessary. Oh, he manages to land a burn on Starmie, thus whittling it down further. This can be pretty big. Fom doesn't want to take many risks, so he switches to Blissey instead of Skarmory. And for good reason here. Because maybe he's expecting to have one of the two Mons roared in. Not a bad play. And now he'll be using Curse. Now there is nothing getting in his way. And Eyeroll is just forced to attack Snorlax with Zapdos. Oh, he gets paralyzed once again. What will Fum do here? Paralyzed. Perhaps get paralyzed by the very good luck. Oh no. I have noise coming from Discord. I didn't know that it was on right now. So yeah, let's just speed it up here, because it looks like the game is sealed. One more curse and there's really nothing stopping Snorlax from winning the game. And that's a GG for game 2. So on to game 3. Let's see what comes up next. And we see another trademark Eyeroll team. Let me turn the music off. And I can already tell that this is a dual screens Venusaur with Belly Drum Charizard. And the same team as before on FOMG. I don't recall the Snorlax set, but there's Forretress for Spike's control, and Raikou to Spike's shuffle and take care of most water types that threaten Tyranitar and Charizard alike. So, without further ado, one decides to lead with Forretress, and Uncle Eyeroll switches into Venusaur. No funny business, because he does not want to let Fom take anything away by setting up and using Swords Dance turn 1. What happened? Oh my! Wow! We have a Bright Powder Venusaur that manages to dodge a 100% accuracy move turn 1. That is very, very, very much a big deal. So the first screen is set up, and Eyeroll brings in his Snorlax and curses up on the opposing Body Slam Snorlax. Unless the moves have been swapped, it looks like it's the same team here. And I wouldn't see why not use that team. Team preview really reveals a lot about strategies, so sometimes secrecy isn't really the key, whereas it is in most non-team preview generations, such as GSC. So, Fong brings in his Skarm as a very solid answer to Snorlax, especially Sleep Talk Snorlax. it seems like he won't be having too much trouble opposing the Snorlax, but that isn't the main threat. Fooling around too much with Skarmory means letting in a Belly Drum in the wrong opportunity, but FOMG is a very experienced player and should know better. So, Lead Belly. The third crit on T-Tar in 2 games from none other than Snorlax. Luckily, this time no paralysis and it's not in range. Ouch. Okay. So Charizard just okay, so he doesn't click Belly Drum for the mere reason that there is still a Starmie around. And that's the only thing actually in the way between it and victory. Otherwise, that would have already been a GG. And the end of losers semifinals. So Snorlax manages to land a Body Slam and paralyze Raikou. This is a Reflect Raikou. So maybe the Venusaur isn't dual screens as I predicted. But there are 2 screens on the team to give Charizard the type of support that it needs. Charizard is Miracle Berry. And again, we don't have a... this isn't Mint Berry. This is probably a Pink Bow Snorlax. Whereas on FOMG, and we already know it's Leftovers, and Thick Club on Marowak, of course. Body Slam not doing enough damage to seal the KO here. Whereas Double Edge inflicts a lot more damage, even to Skarmory, and that's probably a big deal. Well, not Skarmory in this case, but maybe Tyranitar, for instance. Wait, is it the same team? No, wait, I'm probably forgetting something here. Yeah, no, it's not the same team. Pardon me. There is one big difference, and that's the presence of Vaporeon. FOMG in this game decides that he doesn't really need Vaporeon, and he can do quite well with a Curse, Rock Slide, and perhaps EQ. I could have sworn I muted that. Tyranitar. Or its Roar. Nothing out of the usual here. 2 months setting up. This is most likely a rest Tyranitar. And Uncle Eyeroll making the right decision once again, bringing Venusaur on the turn in which Tyranitar chooses to use rest. Blissey may go for oh, wowee. So Blissey, that's a very significant series of events happening all in one turn. So Tyranitar was forced to use rest, and this is most likely an EQ Curse Tyranitar. With rest, it's able to keep up with Curse Snorlax, as long as the other Snorlax doesn't have a super effective move. It still struggles a little bit with Curse Sleep Talk Snorlax in terms of PP stalling, but as soon as Tyranitar is forced to rest, that means anything can come in. So with the Venusaur coming in, it's free to use Sleep Powder on anything it likes. And FOMG is really smart and using Miracle Berry on Blissey, so he manages to get the Heal Bell off, and now he can switch to whoever he likes. Yeah. Yeah, so there's no Sleep Talker on this team because we have a Heal Bell user. FOMG manages to deal a significant amount of damage to Venusaur here. Venusaur is in a mid to high speed range, if you will, compared to the very slow metagame, which is GSC. So it's a very respectable speed, and it can run lots of moves, but there are some incompatibility issues. But now all moves are revealed, and we see Sleep Powder Synthesis, Razor Leaf for PP, and occasional crits and Light Screen. So this T-Tar does not want to stay in on that T-Tar, yeah. Because it's a Roar user and it probably doesn't have an effective type of move. The T-Tar on FOMG manages to land a very significant crit EQ. Venusaur is a grass type, but it does not resist Earthquake. FOMG does not seem at all to be concerned with sleep being inflicted here. Oh, pardon me. I'm a bit sleepy. So, Snorlax in a possible Curse War. Wowee. Okay. Damn. This Snorlax is dead. Unless Starmie manages to land a spin. So now it's going to... Okay, it's not sacking itself. That's really good. So Starmie was lucky enough to find itself in a very favorable situation. That is, it's in range almost of killing Snorlax. So Uncle Eyeroll can't KO the Starmie without then potentially sacrificing it to another Mon later on in the game. Not many. It doesn't really want to commit at 20% against many other Pokemon. So it clicks Rest, and Starmie manages to use Recover on the first turn of Rest and Rapid Spin the next turn. So FOMG's own Snorlax is not yet out of commission. Lucky for him. He does not care. I was going to say, he does not give a fuck. He takes the opportunity to bring his Snorlax and land a Rest. I already know that this Fortress is not Boom. No, I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure. Because I always have a bad feeling when it comes to certain Fortress, and when they don't Boom on Snorlax, I kind of die inside. So what's new here? Basically, the Snorlax is trying to get as many paralysis as it can because, well, Tyranitar is with lefties, so it doesn't really have any way of protecting itself from status. Anything can really shut it down. And as soon as that's gone, the team opens up entirely because his Snarf, aka Raikou, is already on the verge of being KO'd with paralysis, forcing it, well, basically making it in range of a 2-hit KO. I'm not commenting everything play by play here. You'll have to forgive me for that. So Blissey manages to land the second Heal Bell, and Tyranitar is completely healthy. So we see Spikes and Toxic. What's this? What is this? No, I don't want this music. Not in my game. We're just gonna bring this back to the same music as before. Oh, sorry, you're not supposed to see that. So yeah, okay, so Uncle Eyeroll may manage to land to, may manage to use Reflect. And he does. Ooh, okay, so Marowak manages to crit Venusaur, which is a pretty big deal. It's a very difficult matchup for Uncle Eyeroll. Because Marowak kind of just steamrolls the team, slowly picking away at it. Yeah, and yeah, Raikou can't do much besides Roar here. It can't even click Rest without making the situation worse. So Snorlax and Tyranitar switch-ins happening right and left. And at this point, in the game, there is very, very little that Uncle Iroh can do. Even Fortress can't switch in on the T-Tar, which is one of the reasons why it's clicking Earthquake, because it's not very much concerned with Charizard here. It does manage to switch in on the... Oh, wow. Okay, so it does manage to switch in on the Rock Slide turn. Because at this point, Tyranitar isn't concerned with hitting something else. And it lands a Boom, so it's in range and without a chance to use its... Yeah, it's kind of trying to force the Tyranitar to switch out or sack itself, but it didn't really work very well for it. And now there's really nothing that Uncle Iroll can do, and the game is pretty much over. Yes. So FOMG moves on to Losers Finals. And the winner of that has to face... Well, we'll see. Anyway, GG's, folks. And as usual, I love you very, very profoundly. Why does it always end like this?